you were on the Tennessee Titans. You played with the Titans, but you also had a unique experience. Your time in Tennessee, 8 years. How many new head
Yep.
coaches?
Man, we had, I think, four different head coaches.
So in 8 years, you have four head coaches. So we talked about these new teams starting off-season program. What was that like? I never had to experience that. I had the same coach all 13 years. What is that like when a new coach comes in? For one, your off-season gets cut short either by 1 week or 2 weeks, depending on when they want to start. Did you like that? Was the new energy like, we're going to go win? Or was it kind of like after the second and third coach, like, man, we back at this again. Like, hurry up. Let's move on. Let's lose all these games and then come back and do it again next year.
No, it's newfound hope. I mean, think about it from a perspective of you're married now, but at some point you were in some bad relationships where you were struggling and you wanted to get out of the relationship, but you didn't want to seem like you didn't want to seem like the bad guy. But eventually the relationship ends, and next thing you know, you meet this new girl and she just seems fantastic. And that's what the new coaches come along, because you're just like, well, the way we were doing it, that wasn't it. So this new guy is obviously coming off somewhere being a hot shot coordinator or having done it before. So I go from Jeff Fisher to Mike Munchak to Ken Wisenhunt to Mike Mularkey within those 8 years. And whenever a new coach comes in, all the signs that you had before, they all come off the wall. New signs go up. There's usually a Lombardi trophy somewhere. Start with the goal, the end goal in mind, and all of the different sayings that once you lose and the next coach comes in, they rip them all down to the point where Mike Munchak takes over, and Munch, I'm a big Munch fan. He was one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL for a while. And Munch comes in, and Munch played for the Oilers. He coached for the Titans. So he had been a part of the organization for 30 plus years. He puts up on one long wall we had in the hallway this whole tradition of where the Titans started, from all the way from the Oilers days all the way to the Tennessee Titans, of pictures and different people that have laid bricks for it. Awesome wall. Munchak gets fired. Wisenhunt comes in. He takes the whole damn wall down. I'm like, what's the wall got to do? The history of the organization, what's that got to do with right now? So like that to me was always the annoying part. Yes, there was newfound hope. You had to learn new coaches. There's the dog and pony part of it too. Like the new coach would come in and offseason will hit. And it's just like, well, I should go up to the facility and go introduce myself to the coach. And you're trying to like say the right thing, but you don't really know what to say. The film speaks for itself. So that part of it's annoying, but there is legitimately newfound hope, because whoever comes in is supposed to be light years better than what you had before. But as we know, in this business, change is constant and it doesn't always hit. So there are coaches that are going to come in, and as soon as they put their signs up, everybody else in the building, the guys that are working and women that are working, they're coming down, they're peeling all of those ones off the walls, and they're putting something new up. So it is a different experience. Starting early was never fun. I remember it was literally 10 years ago to this month that we started with Ken Wisenhunt, because I got married that same month and had to push my honeymoon back a week so that it matched up with our off-season workouts and the week that we had off. So it is an adjustment, but you think about it for these teams. You talked about the Titans, you talked about the Seahawks, you're talking about the Panthers, teams that didn't play well. And now you're like, all right, like, what does this guy have to bring to the table that's going to get it? Everybody just wants to win. Players want to win to get paid. Coaches want to win. We all want to win championships and all that. If you bring somebody in that's going to help us do that, we're all for it.
Yeah. And the interesting to me is of all of these four teams, three teams, the Patriots, the Seahawks, and the Titans, you're backing up, and I know the Titans, Vrabel didn't win a Super Bowl, but Vrabel took a Tennessee team to the AFC Championship that I think everybody was like, whoa, like how is Tennessee really not just in the AFC Championship, but leading and beating Kansas City at the half and looking like they were for a half about to go to a Super Bowl. And then you have the legendary Pete Carroll, what he did at USC, then goes to Seattle, puts this team in the 2013 Super Bowl, and then the next year they're right back in the Super Bowl. So to me, that's always interesting. And then obviously with Gerard May on the Patriots, Bill Belichick's resume speaks for itself. Following up these coaches who have had success, and not just success like 40 years ago, they've had success all within a relative time of maybe being in a big playoff games, maybe being in the Super Bowl, maybe even winning a Super Bowl, like Bill Belichick 2018 season, he won a Super Bowl. Like, you're following up these things. And I always sit there and I'm like, well, what buys these coaches another year after each year? What do they need to do? Because if they win 9 games and they lose in the wild card, these franchises in the last few years, they've done that. They've been in the big game. So they're like, hey, this isn't good enough. We wanted you to win right away. If you're Mike McDonald, hey, you were in Baltimore, you had this great defense. So if your defense isn't top 5, does that get you fired? Is that not good enough? You know, you come in and you're trying to figure things out. You're in Tennessee. You had Derrick Henry, you had this great running game. So if like we can't run the ball, or because we drafted Will Levis and we only still run the ball, is that so? I'm always so intrigued by these teams who have had success. It hasn't been the Carolina Panthers who've been, at the bottom for a while. So for Canales, you come in and you get to try to, just do something that they just haven't seen be done in a while. Now you're trying to kind of do something brand new. And I shouldn't say that. The Panthers had Cam Newton. They had some success. They won the Super Bowl as well. But I think ever since then, when Cam Newton left and those different things, it hasn't been the same. But I just sit there and I'm like, for these coaches, the weight that's on your shoulders day in and day out, like, how do you manufacture and get that moving? And then what does the owner tell them? Like, hey, you got 2 years, buddy, and I want to be in this game. It always blows me away when we see these new coaches, guys like Steve Wilkes goes to Arizona, terrible really team, takes over. They give them a year and then they fire. Like I'm just like, it's such a tough business to be in. But when you do well, it pays well. So I fully understand.
It comes with the territory, and part of it is different for each coach. To your point, for you think about Callahan in Tennessee, like you got to develop Will Levis. If there's no progression from Levis, same with Canales, with Bryce Young. If we don't see anything from these two quarterbacks, the improvements, especially Tennessee, where you go out and you get Calvin Ridley, you got DeAndre Hopkins on the outside. Like we got to start to see what these guys can do at that quarterback position to have some belief that all right, you're the right guy for it. For McDonald, you think about you come in and you said it. If I'm a defensive coordinator, the one thing I can't have is a bad defense as a head coach. I have to make sure that thing is flourishing. And then for Mayo, I think it always hits different when you're hired from within the organization because you're coming in right away with all your ideas of what needs to be done to make it better. To your point, I remember when Malarkey took over for Wisenhunt in Tennessee, he had notebooks of the things that he felt like we could improve right now and get better because he had been in the building for the last year and a half. I think the same goes for Mayo. You're looking at it and you have instant things when you're going through the process. There's something that Crab heard from Mayo, saw from Mayo, where he's like, all right, he's going to be able to correct the things that have been broken for us for these last few years where we haven't been able to get to where we were at one point. So I think for each coach, it's a different measuring stick that you have to live up to.
No, that's so true. And I think for each guy, they're going to figure out, does this work? Does this not work? And I think the key thing in the NFL is patience. How patient is that team going to be with that specific head coach? We've seen some teams, Carolina, David Tepper has not been patient. He's been getting rid of guys left and right. Yep. That doesn't mean he has to continue down that train. He can decide, hey, I really like Canales. I want to be patient with this coach.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.